Don't lose your head over headsets. Headsets are quite complicated sometimes, and they have different bearings and so forth and cuts and all that, which can get kind of confusing. But in this video, I'm going to just show you what I came across with a particular headset and replace the bearing, and also go over some stems placement as well as spacing. After my 30 years of experience, let me show you what I found on this particular bike. Well, hello. Well, working on this Trek 2007 Badone 2.5 Discover model, which has been a pleasure to work on. I'm gonna do a little, let's just to check out this headset after this.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hi, I'm Justin, the guy. Obviously, I have a garage shop, taking scary out of used bikes one bike at a time.
If you like these videos, please like and subscribe.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. This is Justin, the guy. This is this old bike series, which I'm working on this Trek, and I thought I'd just, do a little video of just tearing into this and see what I find as in the headset. I detailed the frame, got all the parts cleaned. The wheels turned out actually not too bad, considering it's a race light where they had issues before. Cleaned them all up, and it's actually in pretty good shape, so we're good to go there. But I noticed this stem is at a downward angle on this particular bike, where I like to flip those over to just make sure that the height elevation, the lower positions, usually for those who are like more aerodynamic or racing. But most people that I sell to or are going to buy bikes from me are just getting into road riding, so they want more of that relaxed fit. So I do automatically switch out that stem to flip it over to make it more comfortable right off the gate, and if we need to switch that out too. This stem is actually a pretty honking 110 millimeter, but we'll leave it on there. It may be most likely switched out to whoever might be purchasing the bike. I don't know, it all depends, right? But I'll just leave, it is OEM, so I'm gonna leave it on there for now. And if I do fit it locally, I will do those adjustments accordingly. So to be able to flip that stem over, you gotta take out the head plate, which is this guy here. This only uses 2 bolts, which is pretty easy. This is a 31/8, and they'll usually be marked like right in this area sometimes, like 31/8, and this one's a 44 millimeter. So that's where you're looking for sizing. If you don't know that, you can use calipers. Visually, there's 2 major sizes in this vintage bike. 26/6, which is the skinnier one. Then we have a 31/8, which is the more standard one, which they use a little more surface contact, and they're able to make them a little bit lighter weight, which was kind of cool. How these stems come off is you have a headset style system. This came out in the 90s, where they have an adjuster cap on top. So you want to take that bad boy off. And then you want to, this one has 2 bolts. So when you're tightening and loosening these, you got to do both, and you kind of, alternate back and forth on those. And this stem was pretty good. And then this is a race light stem, so I'll keep it as the OEM. And measurement on this one's actually shown on the back here, like 7 degree, 110 millimeter. But you make sure you don't lose your spacers. These are carbon spacers, which are kind of nice. And on the headset here, you'll need to give it a little tap because there's a little bit of a wedge piece in there to hold it in place while you're assembling it. This is the cap here, so we want to make sure we put these down in the order that we took them off so we don't get confused. And that wedge piece I was talking about is the race here, and it has a cutout. That's designed to kind of hold it in place, but if not, whoop, that's what happens. So without fighting this, you go with that. The reason I'm taking this apart is it kind of wanted to know if it felt stiff because it was adjusted incorrectly. And I might as well so I'm taking the stem off anyway. I'm going to double check these bearings. And the bottom bearing race feels pretty good. And these are cartridge bearings, which was a game changer back in the day. Reason being is loose ball bearings were a bear to work on. And on a road bike, you're in the same position for a long period of time. It's not a bearing that's constantly spinning like a hub. It's a bearing that kind of stays in a stationary position, so it moves back and forth. What would happen is those loose bearings would actually start pitting those cups, and it made it really hard to work on. And then you have to figure out how to switch it all out and so forth. Usually headsets are not too terribly expensive, but they are, you have to acquire a lot of tools, expensive tools to switch them out. So yeah, buy the headset that's 35, 50 bucks or whatever, then take it to the shop to have them do it. Because you got like a spanner tool that pushes the cups out. That's expensive. You have a crown race remover, which is this guy that pulls it off. Then there's another tool to put it back on. And then you have to have a cup press. Well, once these pound these cups out, then you have to have a press cup, which is another tool. On top of my head, you're looking at least 300 bucks, 400 bucks for park tools, which are nice. I mean, yeah, I know you can go on and get something from a knockoff brand or whatever that'll work a one time or two times, that kind of thing, and cut that cost down. If you want to do that, go ahead. I actually strongly encourage it because, learning with how to use those, I have a few of those less expensive tools because I don't do headset pressing like every day. It doesn't warrant the cost for me. That I have one that I got inexpensively, and it works just fine for what I do. So back to checking the bearings. This one actually feels really good. So that one's going to be a good one to keep. And this one, we're going to pop this guy out. And, maybe this is the one that's feeling kind of rough, which is usually odd, but it's usually the bottom one. So, yeah, this one has a little bit of a thing to it. So, I got some bearings off of some takeoff bikes, and they're still good. I just need to match the bearing. And since I do this quite often on the same style model bikes, I usually will get a bearing or parts that are pretty much the same. That one feels a lot smoother. All right, so these are two are alike, not like the other. A little bag of parts. Then, you can always upgrade. Some people really like, I want the high-end, best bearing possible out there, blah, 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 which is fine, ish. But for this, I mean, there's other places to spend money on. Which one is going to be the winner? You don't want them too smooth. These, when they're new, they have a little bit of stiffness to them. Those two are pretty spinny. And yep, that fits right in there. Just fine. It's the same. This one has a little bit of rust on it. These will be, okay. They'll have some stamping on the outside here. I'll give you their dimensions and the model and all that. And these are exactly the same. So, and this one has a little bit of rust on it. So what happened here? Well, what probably happened, as we were talking about, this is a trainer bike, is it had a trainer skewer on it, which was rusty, which was weird. Because you think your training would be inside. But anyway, and the bearing. So when you're training on a trainer bike, indoors, sweating your life away. Oh yeah, you're sweating. Guess what sweat is? A lot of salt. What is salt? Very corrosive material that drips off your face onto the headset stem area and draws into the fork, steer tube. I don't know how many times I had to cut off a couple headsets, and I don't want to go there, but tell you what, that salt from your body getting on the bike, going right into the bearing area. Okay, now that makes sense that this bearing is kind of chunky because salt is kind of driven in there, and over time has kind of compromised that bearing, so it has more of like a notch to it. Where usually the bottom bearing usually hits all the stress point while riding, but this one just got damaged by just sitting there, minding its own business, getting salted on. Ew. Anyway, back to what I was doing. I'm going to clean this all off, throw a little bit of grease on both the cups. The cups look fine, actually. They look actually new. It's awesome. So I'm going to take a little bit of bearing grease. And put that in there. Pop that new guy in there. Boop. He has a new home. Clean this off. So there's no rust on this guy. That's good. And what I like using grease is it holds bearings in place because of the sheer stickiness of it. And give it a little light coat on the inside. You're just protecting that bearing area, adding a layer of grease. And it's not going to hurt anything for sure. All right, then we make sure our crown, this is called the crown, which is on the bottom, crown of the fork, which is on top. So this is a steer tube, crown, and this is the fork extensions. Most likely the aluminum extends down to about here, and then the rest of this is carbon with aluminum down here. Sometimes you'll see weird paint jobs where you'll see a line right here. That's caused by the fluctuation of what the carbon can flex at and actually where the joint is, where the aluminum's bonded. Sometimes with that paint, it's aesthetically ugly, but it actually is still fine most of the time, that kind of thing. But always have a double check by your local mechanic to be inspected. It's, it's one that you feel reputable of. There's some people that are really new to this are like, oh, I'll replace everything, all depends. But anyway, this one still has the manufacturing numbers on it, which is kind of cool. So that fork is actually in pretty good shape. Since I know I have grease on the bottom, I'm good. Well, I'm gonna clean my other two parts, which is that little race that clips in there that holds the fork in place. Then there's the dust cap with spacer. This is a Cane Creek S3 model. So you can go to Cane Creek's website and kind of figure out what bearings you need. And also they're great tech, they'll answer emails eventually and tell you what bearing you need, then you can purchase it from them. So this guy goes back up. Then that crown or the race goes in there. Wow, it holds itself in place like magic. Look at that. I'm gonna put this guy on here. Oops, as I force it down. This has a rubber gasket on the inside. That's gonna help that corrosion from going in there. Unfortunately, I didn't save this one. And I have my spacers. So, okay, this has spacers. You got big, medium, and small. I always start with the big one on top or bottom and go to the small, just in case you need to switch these out. And you can switch those out with the stem to get different height levels too. So you can play with that when you're doing those adjustments. Remember, I want this up angle, not down angle. So I'm gonna go up angle. Don't grease this area because you need to have what they call a cold well contact, which is metal contact to hold the position in place. And I'm running out of parts, so that's a good sign. So I adjust this here. So on here, you'll see logoing on the crown or the cups, and they're on the sides. So when you're installing a headset, that's a professional touch. If it has two logos on the cup, you want them on the outside so you can see them from either side. It's kind of like a marketing piece. If it's just one logo, you put it up front, so it's facing forward. If you have three logos, you put one up front and two in the side backs. So you want them evenly on the same, both top and bottom. Professional touch. Just as if you were going to switch out your cups in your headset and put on new ones, that's what you want to be looking for. And same thing with the B dot. This has like different logoing on it. You want to have it, line up like so. Yeah, that's a lot smoother. I like that. I'll readjust it when the wheel's on there and on the ground. That's a good way of testing it, making sure it's not loose or tight kind of thing. So got that. When this is off, it's a good idea just to give it a good wipe down, make sure it's clean of contaminants. Dirt gets in there, that kind of thing. Make sure you put the bars in there correctly. They'll have a B dot with measurements usually to go by. And put these bars back on. Like so. And you want it to be centered. And when you tighten these up, here's a good little gold nugget is just to put these on. If you didn't have any prior measurements on there, and yeah, but if this is your own bike and you have measurements on there, mark them prior to taking everything apart. That's a good rule of thumb. But in this case, there's no rider. And on the side here, I like to do these parallel to the ground just for aesthetic reasons. But for actual fitting, you'll have an angle here, and you want to mark it in relation to your stem so you have that pitch the way you want it when you put it back together. And this part you need to take off if you're just doing your headset, so you don't have to worry about that. But when you're doing your headset, if you're switching out to a different headset, that might change the spacer spacing too. Anyway, so you may need to keep an eye on that when you're switching those out. Stack height of the spacers there. Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, this one, poor guy, got sweated on. Well, we're not going to get this mixed up in the old one, so we're going to make that go away. All right, headset ready to go. Ready to roll to putting the rest of the parts on and finishing the bike. Check out videos like this little bike. There's several different models and makes on there. Might find something that you have and it'd be kind of cool to check out. And I'll be doing a conclusion on this one. So thank you for spending time with me in the garage. Put some comments below if you want to talk about this. Hey, have a wonderful day from the garage.